Okay, so thank you for staying tuned to Udala Radio 4.7 FM. It's 18 minutes past 9 a.m. and we are saying welcome to the Polity, a Tuesday edition of this very program, this 19th day of May 2026. And what we do on the Polity is that we bring you developments in the country, the way they are captured by various newspapers. And this very morning, our papers are washed with stories regarding different things across the country. Talk about the kidnapping that happened in Oyo State, their reactions to the abductions. The governor of Oyo State is speaking, likewise the president. They are all giving assurances that they are going to do everything to ensure that those people who were abducted are released or rescued. Then away from that very one, talk about the outcome of the APC primary election for senatorial seats. It happened yesterday across Nigeria. And within our area, of course, there are results coming from Delta State, results coming from Imo State, Enugu, Ebonyi, and other parts of the country. There are some casualties, and some known names are also returning. You are going to see all these things in the papers this very morning. Also today, the seat which was filed to test the eligibility of Goodluck Jonathan for him to contest for presidency is also in the news. Because there were applications filed by Goodluck Jonathan, likewise that the AGF, and they were all asking the court to dismiss that very suit because a similar court case some time ago had already taken care of that. So you can find that in the paper this very morning. There are some other interesting stories you can find. So by the time we begin our analysis, you are going to become more aware of this development. So we are asking you to stay with us this very morning on this radio dial, Udala Radio 104.7 FM, for the Polity this morning. My name is Franklin Ebuka. Okay, so here in Anambra State, yesterday was inauguration of the solution cabinet, the one he calls a 2.0. So all those people who were nominated for commissioner job and also cleared by the Anambra State House of Assembly, they were yesterday inaugurated, 18 of them. And if you add them to the 2 who were initially inaugurated, so they now have 20 commissioners. Also heads of agencies, likes of head of ATMA, ACTD and co, they were also inaugurated yesterday. So what that simply means is that the new cabinet now has set up for an assignment. So let's see what they are going to deliver for people of Anambra State. Already I have seen some of them, writing on their social media pages how excited they are to have this very appointment. Take for instance the Commissioner for Women Affairs, Lady Onyekesi, and then the Commissioner for Information, Dr. Lombefo. Then the Commissioner for Land, I saw that people in the Ministry of Land, they organized dance troupe to welcome him to the ministry yesterday. I saw people playing Ogene and dancing, saying that they were excited for him to have returned to that very ministry. So let's see what these guys are going to deliver in the coming months. But this morning on the Polity, we're going to bring the headlines first before we talk about the big issues. But before then, Tony Disambeki is on the analysis desk. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning to you, Franklin Ebuka. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, India, Anambra. Good morning, Indonesia. Good morning, Indosimo. Good morning, everyone under the reach of our voice. Good morning, because tonight and this morning, in fact, I don't know, last night, Arsenal fans were feeling that they were close to the dreamland. They were moving from Egypt down to the promised land. Of course, they are close to that very place. But miraculously, if Manchester City fails to beat Bournemouth tonight without playing a second, the crown becomes theirs. But that is, by the way, Arsenal fans were tense yesterday during the closing stage of the match against Burnley, but we saw what happened. But that's, by the way, on the side of football. And we want to also say welcome, because we are here to do the work, the good work of the Lord. We're back in the sanctuary. We are back in our altar to profess the truth the way it will not please you. Don't expect whatever we say here to please. It will not please you. And you will have arguments on issues the way probably I may have my analysis, because my own is to make sure that every side is represented and every side is heard. I don't belong to any bandwagon effect. That is by the way. I will thank God Almighty for a day like this. Today being Tuesday. I'm happy that Mondays these days children do go to school. I'm happy. It's one of the things I advocated for. I put for with the Anambra State government complementing and doing so much or much more of those things. And we are back to where we should be. But even when we are doing this, the naysayers, they had their way. Or they had their say. Thank God it's Tuesday. And today being Tuesday, it's another day. And just like we always know, May is just closing down. And we know very well before we know it, we'll get into June. We thank God Almighty for a day like this, for His grace, for His mercy, for His love, for His kindness. This 19th day of May definitely will usher in the 20th, but we believe that it will be something we will celebrate and share up. Yeah, welcome, sit back and enjoy the program.
Okay, so you mentioned Arsenal fans. How did you guys do it yesterday? I mean, how did you guys survive? Knowing that the match started, Arsenal, they were in control that very much. But after they scored the first goal, or after they scored the long goal, at the point the tempo changed. How did you guys survive the pressure and the tension?
Who's guys? I don't know. You're saying how do you guys? I don't understand. I don't understand your language.
The Arsenal loyalist. Let's put it that very way.
Okay, for Arsenal loyalists, because you maybe have psychological support or emotional support for a club, that doesn't mean that when you see what happened, you may not say it. So that stamping by Kai Havertz, for me, it was a red card. He was lucky to have avoided red card. I like being honest. I like being truthful. Immediately I saw that, I told myself, yes, it was a red card. And immediately I saw the penalty appeal where Saka was brought down at the penalty because the young man put his foot first and Saka was to kick the ball. It was just to bury the ball home, and they find out they couldn't do that. But for me, it wasn't a penalty. But overall, Arsenal had the control of the game. And people thought that it would have been 3-0, 4-0. But just as we know, Arsenal is good defensive-wise. But attacking option, for me, I thought that even Arteta made the changes so late, when it was obvious that Eze was tired, even Saka was tired, Mosquera was not in the game to an extent. I watched the game. And many of them were not there. But he made the changes. And guess who he brought in? Zubimendi. The Arsenal fans had said he has to rest, because he had played so much part in the season to the point that he loses ball anyhow. He brought him. I thought that he would have brought Martinelli earlier on. In fact, the Gyökeres he brought in caused some kind of disturbances at the Burnley defensive side. He would have done that earlier on. He would have brought in Gyökeres earlier on. He would have brought in Martinelli earlier on, and possibly would have removed Saka and put in Noli Madueke. The idea is to ensure you hold more possession and you prevent them from playing. It would have been much better, but they must do something about the attacking force next season. Because if they don't do that, what we are seeing is that Madiko draws in as when the season started. But it's good that they won, because I love the fact they won yesterday, and I'm also happy Arsenal won. Yeah.
Okay, so after today, if eventually Man City fails to win today, then Madam fail. Let's leave it at this point. Okay, so let's quickly brush this before we get to the headlines. I don't know what is actually playing out within the APC now, because some names were listed as those who won primaries for House of Reps. As we speak, we are beginning to see different names. Take, for instance, for Dunikofe Federal Constituency, we had the name of Ambassador Elijah Onyabwa as the person who won in that very area. But now we are hearing another name, somebody against it, And this is like the story we are getting from some other quarters. What is it happening? Is the party applying elimination and substitution method?
I think it has to do with APC Anambra State. APC Anambra State, I have said it many times, if they were conscripted to be part of APC family, from the way things are happening, even those who are contesting under APC here, we have not seen the lights as we are seeing in other states for having two parallel names being banded. That tells you if they are cohesive, if they are united in Anambra State. It's yet to be seen. You mentioned a particular area. I think it's a federal constituency. Has to do with Dunikofia, Njikoka, DNA. We call it Dunikofia, Njikoka, and Aniocha federal constituency. And you are having two names being banded. That tells you all about APC in Anambra State. And I've said it many times and I will keep saying it. For President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the APC in Anambra State he recognizes is ABGA. That's the way he sees it. And that's why every appointment is coming from that angle. Yes. But the two names, I saw the one that happened Dimly North and Dimly South. We are two persons also laying claim to the ticket. And we saw Barrister Kingston Ezekwelu. And the one other person who came out and said they were all laying claims the same. If that could happen in the Demily North, the Demily South, and the Fat Dunikofia, Njikoka, and the North Federal Constituency is also happening. What do you call that? It's really disturbing. I wouldn't even know which one is authentic. But you go on social media, you see all some of these things, and you wouldn't even know the one to believe. But it is left for APs by the time they publish the list of their candidates. We know who is who.
Okay, so we are going to know who is who in a matter of time, but now we are going to bring you up to speed with the headlines we have on various newspapers. So stay with us. Don't forget we are live on our Facebook platforms. On Facebook, we are Udala Radio 104.7 FM. On Instagram and YouTube, we are Udala Radio. So get interactive on those platforms. So this morning we have a four newspapers as usual, and we have to begin with the headlines we have on the Nigerian Tribune. The big story on the front page here says, "We won't bow to terror." Makinde. On pages 2 and 3 of the Nigerian Tribune, the writers say, "A confirmed 7 teachers, 25 students abducted in 2 schools. Say surveillance. Aircraft already in Lagos undergoing final assembly. Coordinating center established at police headquarters for updates on rescue efforts. Kidnapped teacher beheaded. Protest rock Obomosho. Students shun school. Tinubu assures on rescue of kidnapped victims. Can Benga Hashim condemn abduction? Demand urgent action." Another story on page 26 says, Ondo APC group petitions national chairman over alleged kangaroo reps primaries. He has a right that senator escapes death as gunmen invade voting points in Ondo. Senate primaries, Uzodimma, Abiodun, Okowa, Bello pick APC tickets on pages 15 and 16 on Nigerian Tribune. He has rider Senate leader Ndume, Dafinone, return in Ekiti, Borno Delta. Ned Nwoko, Omagege losing Delta. Shehu Sani, Yero, Katung win Kaduna primaries. Confusion in Plateau, Edo over conflicting result as Akitunde Oseni emerge in Oyo Central, Oyo South. Then in the area of health, just 2 cigarettes daily raise heart failure risk by 50%. This is according to a study on page 3. Guba poll, Ekiti local government workers pledged to deliver 200,000 votes for Oyebaji on page 25. Alleged national security breach, DSS witness narrates how El Rufai's TV interview sparked phone tapping investigation. It's on page 21 with a rider court grants ex-governor 100 million naira bail. ADC screens Bindo, Oboru, Adeboyega, 67 other governorship aspirants on page 27. It has a rider reschedules presidential screening till tomorrow. Great Obolu is eyeing Delta State governorship position. I don't know. This could be his fourth time or third time or thereabout, because ever since I've known him, he's been contesting for that very seat, and it's been elusive. Osun government accord alleged planned arrest of officials, party leaders, seek Tinubu's intervention. That story can be found on page 21 of Nigerian Tribune. From there, we move to Vanguard newspaper. On Vanguard, the big story says APC Senate primaries, Okowa, Abiodun, Uzodimma win, Nwoko, Goje, others lose. That story is on page 5. It has Ryder, Barao, Bello, Oshomole, Kalu, others clinch return tickets. Jack Rich, Banigo, Danagogo, 41 others disqualified. Drama, consensus, protest trail exercises. On page 7, Oyo school kidnap. Teacher, student, protest. Teacher, student, protest colleagues' abduction and killing. On page 7, it has a writer, Tinubu condemns killing of abducted teacher. And this one says, when children are haunted in classrooms, silence becomes complicity. Khan is the one saying so. 2027 presidency, court sets May 26 to determine Jonathan's eligibility on page 23. Ebola fears, Nigerian scientists want emergency border surveillance on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. Obi emerges NDC's sole presidential aspirant on page 9 of Vanguard newspaper. Above the nameplate, diaspora remittances stabilize at $21.8 billion in 2025 amid global pressure on page 19. On page 6, jury begins deliberation in Alison Madueke's alleged bribery trial. Phone tapping charge, court grants El Rufai 100 million naira bail, allegedly rearrested by DSS on page 9 of Vanguard. And the last headline here says, Osun government Accord party raised alarm over planned mass arrests of officials and leaders. That story can be found on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. On Punch, the big story says APC Senate primaries, Daniel Amosu, Rochas crash, Abiodun, Uzodimma Bello win on page 2. Lagos plans end to disco ban classification on page 9. Perhaps they want to follow suit in what happened in Enugu State, because that has been crashed in Enugu State already. US-Iran crisis, Nigerian crude nears $120 per barrel on page 9. Tax reform, FG opens free dispute settlement channels on page 21. Lagos shawarma vendor shot dead by suspected cultists on pages 4 and 5. Jonathan, AGF opposed 2027 eligibility suit on page 12. This one says 2027 ADC screens 70 governorship aspirants for primaries on page 12. Food inflation spikes above 20% in 11 states on page 9. Oyo abduction outrage spreads after teachers beheading. The story is on page 7 of Punch newspaper. We now move to the last paper, which is The Guardian, and the big story there says APC's primaries, Senator stranded, lose ticket as anti-defection law backfires on page 6 of The Guardian. Then you will see the kind of a breakdown of the Electoral Act of 2026 saying closing the door on party hopping. Court sentences potato seller to life imprisonment over sexual assault on page 6. OT LP kicks as Abure rolls out free nomination forms on page 4. Tony, perhaps somebody should think about going to the Labour Party faction of OT to pick up free form, because this time around nobody's paying money for anything. Just come and pick up the form and then go and contest. A military intensifies anti-ISIS operations, kills 20 fighters in fresh airstrikes on page 30. 2026 Guba polls, Osun government Accord party alleged planned mass arrest of officials leaders on page 25. APC, or rather ADC, blames Tinubu for El Rufai's detention woes as IPC defense procedure. ADC blames Tinubu for El Rufai detention woes as ICPC defense procedures on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. Jonathan Fabemi asked court to dismiss seat on eligibility for 2027 poll on page 3. Grave panic as terrorists behead abducted or your teacher on page 3. Obi Atiku for Tinubu's borrowing habit. on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. So the last story says UUTH health workers suspend strike as EFCC apologizes for invasion, on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, so you are listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM, and this is the Polity. My name is Franklin Ebekatono Lisambeki on the analysis desk, and we just brought you the headlines we have on the papers this very morning. So we have to look at the big issues, the big stories, and see how we make sense out of them. And we are going to start from Anambra State here, because yesterday the social media space in Anambra State was on fire, even beyond Anambra State, because of a report which was published by Punch newspaper, claiming that Anambra State government has introduced new burial law which bans presentation of cows, goats as condolence gift. And guess what? In less than 30 minutes after that report circulated, it was fire everywhere. Everybody was talking about it on social media within Anambra State and then beyond. And it caught the attention of even some other persons outside here. But in the wake of the conversations and questions regarding that very alleged funeral law, people like us who are in the know, we were skeptical that we had to make certain moves to know whether people know what we do not know. I'll give you an instance. When I first saw that very report, I said I was here in the office. I went to meet a few of the colleagues. I told them, please don't feast on this very story until we have a confirmation about it. I had to put a call across to the correspondent that wrote the story, talking about the Punch correspondent here. I called him like several times to find out the copy of the law he has upon which he wrote that very story. I called him several. I didn't take the call. Up to now, we haven't spoken. Then I now decided to call Anambra State House Assembly to know if there is any new law passed without our knowledge. I spoke with the aide to the speaker, and he told me that there's no new law passed. I called some other persons I know that report Anambra Assembly, and they told me they're not aware of any new law. And that was when they now began to make effort to counter the narrative that is already out there. But Tony, there was a report by Punch about Anambra government introducing new burial law which bans presentation of cows, goats as condolence gift. How do we put this in the realm of journalism and social responsibility?
Well, for me, I know the young man you're talking about. He's my very good friend, Ikenna. That's his name. And then I know very well that he has done so much work, especially in the area of reporting Anambra issues. It's a call, I think he's Punch correspondent here in Anambra State, but I don't know if he covers activities of the State House of Assembly. From the look of things, I know the SSA to the Speaker, Anambra State House of Assembly, or Sankwa. From what he wrote, and from what I also observed, the young man is not a correspondent at the State House of Assembly, and he should be one. He should work to see that he's accredited to be a correspondent in a way that he will have first-hand information. He reported hearsay, and I don't want to call media outfit names. For a media outfit, he represents to report a hearsay. For me, it's not just yellow journalism, but it's purely an aberration. Purely an aberration. We always know very well that in journalism, you must hear the other side of the story. Balancing is the key. That's why when people listen to us, they want us to be one-sided. And they feel that being one-sided represents their interests. We cannot. The key cardinal principle of journalism is balancing. Just like if you come out where somebody was murdered, either through jungle justice and all that, you focus more on what the person did, and without also blaming jungle justice system. That's wrong. That's why sometimes people will not like what we do here. They think that what we do here is a beer parlor engagement, where if you love somebody, you say everything good about the person without even observing anything wrong. If you say anything wrong, you become an opponent. That's not balanced. That's not what we do here. We must tell you the good sides. We also tell you the bad side, the one he hasn't done well. That's why we are here. But there are those that would not buy that. Nobody is a messiah. I've always said it. That one apart. And for young man, I believe you said you called him several times, he didn't pick up his call. You would have sent him a message as well. I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't.
You would have sent him a message because
I called in several with.
I'm sure he responds to message very well. Most of my communication with him has always been through message. There are times there will be issues on so many things he would like to know my opinion. I do communicate my opinion via messages. That's what I do, because call from me can be twisted. That's why message. People don't even understand that when you have message, either SMS or WhatsApp with somebody, it is most, for me, altruistic mode of communication. Nothing can be twisted. Well, what was said over the phone can be twisted.
No, for me, what I wasn't even looking for his opinion.
Okay.
All I wanted is to ask him to share a copy of the law upon which he wrote the story, so that I can compare notes with what I have.
He can even say he didn't see the call, but if you have sent him a message, it becomes incumbent upon him to respond to the message. He has no option. That is by the way. Now, what was said, we have heard it. There is nothing like any new burial law in Anambra State. The one we know is the one passed by the State House of Assembly. Not even the present assembly as constituted. It was passed in 2019. That's what we know.
So let's go through this again,
okay,
so that we can set the facts correctly, what it is. So as you speak now, there is no new Anambra burial law. What we have is an existing law that was passed under the government of Willie Obiano. So you can start from there.
Of course, that's what we have. I think where the whole thing started was when the governor was at one of the, events, and he said that the state would dust the law and start implementing provisions of the law. Right there, because remember we talked about this, where some people said, why would we have burials on Saturday? We talked about it the other day. Why would we have cows being exchanged? And there are people that will always say, leave the thing the way it is. Let the people decide what they want. But the assembly that did this under Willie Obiano, they felt that families were put under pressure to sell land, to sell properties, for them to bury their loved ones. And we placed more emphasis on burial as against taking care of the person while the person was alive. For me, that was what the house at that time looked into and said, it is an aberration. It is an anomaly. It is totally inconsistent with our belief and culture and what we profess as a people. We need to correct that. That was what the assembly did, the last assembly. I think it wasn't even was it the last assembly or second to the last assembly? What they did, and they were able to change a whole lot. Not the immediate past assembly. 2 assemblies before the one we currently have. They looked at everything and said, you know what? The burial should be on Saturday to unify burial systems so that it will not affect schools, it will not affect programs, it will not affect work. People who are working in civil service, civil servants, they have issues with their supervisors, reason being that they will go on burial. Times upon times, they take excuse from work that they will be attending burial. On Friday, during a working day, on Thursday, during a working day, sometimes even on Monday, on Tuesday. It was something the State Assembly looked upon that time and then felt that the need was right for them to unify the burial system, and they did. But what the governor said was that we are going to implement this law. It has not been implemented unless we discard the law. 2 things are involved. Either we discard the law or we implement the law. And immediately he said that burials should now be on Saturday. But we never knew that when he was making that, probably he had gone through the law and observed that it is written in the law that it should be on Saturday. But over how many years? From 2019 to 2026, that's about 7 years. It has not been implemented. It has not been effected. And the question is, why? Why do you make laws when you know there will be problems implementing it? There will be problems in having it observed as it is written in the law. And that's what the governor said. We gotta does this law. He was not the one that made it. He wasn't even the governor when it was made. He was not part of those who made the law. But he found that there was need to get this done. But for me, he is coming too late. It ought to have been whenever a law is assented to by governor, unless the implementation is deferred by the law itself, it should go in immediately. The implementation should start immediately, unless stipulated within the law that the implementation will be deferred. That's what it should be. I don't know what is wrong with us. If we know we cannot implement anything, let's leave it. There's no point going further to have a law, put it together, assented by the executive governor. It was Governor Willie Obiano who assented to it, and it was left undone. For me, it makes no sense. It's a waste of time, waste of taxpayers' money, and waste of resources.
Okay, so you know that as we speak now, we have had two rebuttals regarding this, because the first one came from Anambra State House Assembly, and this very morning there's a rebuttal coming from the Commissioner for Information and Value Orientation, and talking about Dr. Law Mefo. They are saying the same thing, that no new law was passed by the state government. Any burial law we have was passed in 2019 under Willie Obiano, and what the writer or what the correspondent did was, perhaps, I don't know whether he was misguided, I don't know what it was that gave birth to what he put out yesterday. So let me also hear from Mr. Brown, regarding this.
Franklin, how are you doing this morning?
Yes, fantastic.
Dr. Tony?
You're welcome.
Good to see you guys.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry I had to crash your party this morning.
No problem.
It's because this is a thing that has to do with us professionals.
Yes.
And who takes the blame? Who takes the blame? If it was another kind of information, let's not look at burial laws. What if it was a more life-threatening information? Who would be responsible? And people have to act towards that. Who will be responsible? Now, you have to understand clearly that the government did not put out any message. There was a law back then. It hasn't been. The law hasn't evolved yet. It's still the same law, like you said, that was put in by Obiano, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good. So yesterday morning, somebody put out, you as an editor, you did your research and you put out an information stating that there was a law that was passed on Monday. And the same day, you've come out to say that the law was, the second link, the second story that the same editor actually did was shifting the blame away from himself. And I have to tell you, as long as the government will not do something and come back and tell you they did not do it, they will stand by it. If anything at all, you will see the truth. But this one was just not there at all. There was no hearing. There was no law that was passed. You sensationalized. If we didn't make those calls, there won't be this. The second report will not come in. You know that, right? So I say, our editors should please stick to the code of conduct. Stick to the code of conduct. You didn't need to do two reports on one matter if you actually did your findings right. This is not about the government, and we're not going to deliberate much on this because they are also our brothers in the industry. You understand?
Yeah.
But we just say, let us all be professionals. We are also trying our best to be professional. Look at what we had to go through this morning. When you get a news like that, you call the right people. And big shout out to you, Franklin, for your investigative work on this one. If not, we'll be here talking about new burial law.
No.
And
that
was
never a burial law.
Yeah.
Because you know what? We have been in this state.
Yeah.
When I saw that yesterday, I saw the burial nonsense. That's the way I'm going to describe it. And I felt that it was something, maybe the Punch reporter, I know him. He's my friend. Probably mistakenly he carried the news, and before you know it, it was trending on social media.
Tony, that thing was not mistakenly.
For me, you know why? The young man, why?
So what was it for clickbait?
That's what it is.
Okay, because now look at if you look at the second report he did, on the reporter, I just want to read a line from that. He said, there have been reports circulating on social media that the state has outlawed lavish burial parties and banned the presentation of items such as cow. So nobody took responsibility that it was this paper that
he did not take responsibility. That is wrong.
Now go back to the first story. He was authoritative about it, like he was there when it happened. And that is where I have a problem. You understand? This thing did not generate from the internet. There were other news in the public space yesterday, and then you, maybe not clickbait, maybe, editors have targets.
But
you know that? You know editors, especially editors in other states, they have targets.
Yes, I know.
Maybe he needed to meet up with his quota.
I know, but the bad thing about this story is this: the reporter is out there, but where the first story had gone to, the reporter has not gotten to that. This very morning, I saw a content creator talking about it, and I have seen the stories, trending on different blogs outside Anambra State, outside Nigeria.
Exactly. Let me tell you how. Sorry, doctor. Let me tell you how I got really upset with this. I'm from Lagos State, and I'm here, and I'm looking at Anambra State. Like first impression when I first came to this town, I realized that what they say about this town is different from what is happening here.
Yeah.
You understand? It's totally different, and I've seen that over time. When I got to a social media, platform yesterday, and I was reading this story, and I saw the comments, it was sounding like, and this is the first direct impact. Oh, so the world is evolving, and this is what Anambra is doing.
But let me read the stories. The first one, the young man wrote, and the second one. The first headline on the Punch newspaper, the writer says, Anambra introduces new burial law, bans presentation of goats, cows as condolence gift. This was published on May 18, 2026, exactly 4:37 p.m. That was when he published it by the same name.
No.
And then if you look at the first paragraph, the young man, Ikenna, the way he puts it, the Anambra State government has introduced strict new legislation regulating funeral rites, effectively outlawing midweek burials and banning the presentation of items such as cows, goats, and other expensive gifts during condolence visits. That's the first one. Now let's go to the second one. The reporter he wrote, the same person.
Hold on, before you go, the third paragraph on that same page, he says, according to the law obtained by our correspondent on Monday.
That is one. Then if you go by the second reporter, the same person is writing.
The same person.
He says, Anambra denies introducing new burial law. That's his caption. And he went further to say, the Anambra State government, through the State House of Assembly, has denied claims that it has introduced new legislation regulating funeral rites. He went further, just like the one he pointed at. There have been reports circulating on social media. He did not include his report.
And he did not say that he was there.
He did not even say that we had earlier published or we had earlier reported that this was the case. But for me, media should understand what is corrigendum. That's what we call corrigendum in the media. When you have done mistake, when you have done obvious error in making false report, you come back with a caption corrigendum. The idea is you don't deceive the public, because you are the same person speaking with the both sides of the mouth. And you said there's a way you put it, our correspondent obtained. And the point is, Anambra State House of Assembly does not sit on Monday.
On Mondays.
They don't sit on Sunday. And the report was on Monday.
Look, we can take this thing as, carefree as we want. But when we are advocating for, authentication of news, how to get rid of fake news, and this is happening internally from the system, we must raise a certain level of concern, because again, like I said, I was a bit ashamed when you get to the public space on social media and you're saying, people are saying, Anambra is still backward because of burial law. It's wrong, and that would never even happen. I mean, there are other things the governor is trying to achieve, not look into people's pockets.
So let me just talk about this gatekeeping, because when issues like this happen, it gives a window for us to also do some education. Because on this platform, when we tell you people that there are things that you are going to read, and we are telling you that you have to take this with a pinch of salt. It does not mean that somebody wants to control the story. It simply means that somebody is in the know about things. Because I must tell you, the moment I saw that very story, this guy was there. Chidima, DJ, they were all here.
Yeah.
I said, please do not use. I'm going to make calls. Because why is this? As people who have lived in the state and we follow things that happen in the assembly, and we have people in the assembly,
Already.
we didn't know when, we have not heard.
We've not heard.
Even something I put out there, I was asking myself, when was the law introduced that we didn't even know? Because no matter how anybody wanted to do it in a very stealth way, people we have there will have give us an idea.
There will be communications.
Do you understand? So the thing is this: when we talk about approaching issues at this digital time with a pinch of salt because of what we know that happens in the industry, and the issue of gatekeeping now comes to be again. When I worked in in a newsroom as a reporter back then in Enugu, as a reporter, you go to the field to cover your story, you come back, you give to the desk editor to edit. After editing, you give to the news manager to edit. After news manager, it goes to the duty editor. After duty editor, it now gets to the DTN. One story.
There's a chain of command. There's a
Gatekeeping.
chain of
So
gatekeeping.
this time of digital publishing, I do not know whether it is the correspondent who publish by themselves, or if the stories go through the gatekeeping process before the stories find.
I understand how these things work, frankly, because there are things you may not say to the public, but in most of these media houses, they are so much concerned to be at pace with social media.
Social media, exactly.
They take these stories from social media, and the honest truth is, let's be real to ourselves. You know, social media has become a major source of real-time information. The word is real-time.
Tony,
Public reaction,
sorry.
eyewitness accounts.
What could have happened? That's what I'm asking. You know why?
Yeah.
If you count 20 correspondents of different papers in Anambra State, I know 18 of them, and I have worked close with them. When that story, check any other platform.
Nobody else had it.
No other platform published that
To
story.
answer that question,
No other correspondent published that very story.
to answer that question, what really happened? I'll tell you this: two things. Is either the editor is on a timeline to deliver a certain number of. Look, if you're social media editors now, they work with the
Correspondence directly,
and then
there's nothing like gatekeeping.
your performance is judged by the interaction of that story.
The likes, the comments, the share. Let me tell you something, frankly. Nothing like gatekeeping.
Oh.
All you need to know is to have direct access with the social media manager of the media outfit. Once you publish it, because they believe you are the one who is the correspondent. Whatever you bring in
It's authentic.
It's authentic. Don't fact check it. You know, I've said here, whatever I say here, I tell the public, fact check me. And whatever somebody comes here to say, I will also do what? Fact check the person. Not that I don't believe. The truth is, let us be sure of what we are passing to the public.
We owe the public that code of conduct.
If people
we owe
lose
them.
trust in what you are doing, in what you are passing, it means that you have no credibility
At all.
You have no authenticity. You have
At
no
all.
goodwill. You cannot be trusted.
And if anything at all, I would expect an apology from the editor.
I will send him a message.
An apology from the editor.
I will send him a message.
His
I
approach.
will send him a message, and I will tell him, the culture in journalism, especially in print journalism, where if a publication is made with poor representation or false representation, you have to come up with a new publication captioned corrigendum.
And I also want to put this out there. And we're saying this not to the general public, but to our fellow friends in the industry. Yeah. As of today, as of this morning, the first story is still up there. It's still online. It's still being consumed.
It has not been pulled down.
It has not been pulled down because the editor thinks that the second story covers up the first one. No. So please, an apology, and that story should be taken down.
Most stories are still there anyway.
Both stories are still there. The first one in particular should be taken down.
But let's talk proper about the law.
The behead law, because
at this point, I would excuse you guys. Right. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. So for the behead law, so Tony, in as much as it was passed in 2019 under Obiano, and is no longer there, and now we now have a house, and somebody did a report which has tried to resurrect that law that it has existed but has never been implemented. Some of the things that came out in this report were things that many people didn't know initially. Take, for instance, the issue about presenting cow, the issue about burials being restricted to weekends, and some other things. Initially, when the law was passed, we heard about banning the placing of posters, mounting of billboards, issuing souvenirs, and what have you not. But as it stands now, do you think that the state needs to repeal this very law? Do you think that issues about burial needs legislation on?
Well, for me, it is the people, because the laws are made for the people, not you make the people put the law behind them. Well, the point I'm trying to make, the laws are made for the people. The question is, just like I said, if we are not okay with this law, we can as well write to the Anambra State House Assembly, write to the government of the state and say, we don't like this law. Repeal it and repeal the Obnoxious Pact. The truth remains that, just like I said earlier on, what brought about this law? It was brought as a result of extravagant spending attached to burial in Anambra State. Honestly speaking, because it was under Governor Willie Obiano, where extravagant burial practices, financial burdens on family, public disturbances, and they also aim to protect widows and widowers from oppressive customs. And it was also aimed to promote orderly and dignified burial. I remember when one of the priests in Anambra State, one of the popular priests, when he did the mother's burial, the governor had a spat with the Archbishop of Onitsha on the same issue. And the governor was of the view that one of the sons of the deceased was one of those that passed this law. He was there, and the law was passed. And at that time, he was going against every provision of the law. But people felt that even if that was the case, was it right for the governor to be saying it at the funeral? Or was it no other means of communication he could have get to the family and tell them, you have violated the law and definitely this is the punishment? But I think when he said that at the church, there was some kind of noise I heard, and people were divided on the issue. Those who were of the view that he was saying the truth, but where the truth is said also matters. There are those who believe that where the truth is proclaimed, where the truth is also said, also matters. But just like I said earlier on, not just issue of cow, not issue of the expenses. There were other things that were put in that very burial law as we have in Anambra State. And if you go by what we have here, it was also observed that no person shall erect any billboard, banner, or poster of the deceased anywhere in the state. Only directional posts leading to the venue are allowed. Violations attract a fine of 100,000 naira or 6 months imprisonment or both. People don't even know that. It is only directional.
So, Tony, this law has existed for close to 7 years, and we are not aware that it has been implemented anywhere. Given the fact that we have two sides to this very coin, where many people are there are people who are concerned about how burials have become luxurious and so expensive that it looks as if it's a celebration of life. There are other people who believe that anybody can choose on how to do, the committal to Mother Earth of his loved ones and what have you not. Neither here nor there. But irrespective of the views people have about this, whether for or against, do you think that the issue of funeral right is something that needs a legislation on at the state level, or is this something that we have to go into our villages, go into the communities, and begin to look at the issues that cause troubles and see how they can be addressed through culture?
For me, if you look at issues that have troubles, as you mentioned, and addressed through culture, it's not going to be implementable. It's not going to be achieved, because in my hometown, the way we do things, and if it is in contrary to the way people of Onitsha do, somebody will say it is no more a level playing field. The ground must be level. Like, let me give, for instance, because if you go by the provisions of the law, it says there will be no ceremonies, burial or funeral ceremony are restricted to 1 day. All burial mass, church service must start not later than 9 a.m. and must not last more than 2 hours. No wakekeeping, vigil mass, songs and religious activities, they must end by 9 p.m. if you have these ones. No wakekeeping. But if
some communities have been doing this, I give you instance. In my community, the issue of wake keep stopped many years ago.
Oh, it's no more wake.
It just,
but
if you have funeral service or mass in the evening, let me if you start by 6 p.m. by 8, everybody's done.
But let me ask you frankly, where it is observed in your village and it's not observed in my village, it means that one village seems to be superior to the other. And there are those that will tell you we are not going to do it because of the leadership at that level. The point I'm also trying to make, my concern, where I'm so much concerned, is we are blocking of street roads. If most times in places like Onitsha, Obosi, and some of these urban towns, roads are closed. People will not use road because of burial. If you go by the provision of that very burial law, no blocking of streets, roads for burial, except with approval from the appropriate local government authority. No destruction of property. Catch crop, there are people that will destroy farms.
So at this point, back to my initial question is,
okay,
since this law has been existing for close to 7 years and it has never been used, it has not been tested, is it to be repealed or for us to dust it and begin to implement it?
For me, I think we may look at some aspect of this law that people have concerns about and see what we can do about it. There are places, there are concerns people have about certain places. Now, when you talk about there is no display of gasket, most times during burial, people use gasket and throw it up and down and dance with it.
Do you know that the law also banned selling of the casket in the open place? But it's still littered everywhere.
That's what I'm saying. But the most astonishing part is where gasket is being thrown up and down. But some people tell you that that's not the problem of Anambra State as we speak now. But you can't say it's not the problem of Anambra State because the law was passed in 2019. And every law passed is meant to be implemented. And I remember the voice of Archbishop where he said that any law not observed organically or naturally by the people, that tells you that that law is oppressive. That's what he said. He told the governor before him. But the governor was of the view that, Archbishop, if you feel that the law is oppressive, cite areas of operation of the law, put it out so that it can be looked into. Again, every law can be revisited many times. There is no limit to revisit any law made. If there are parts of it that are not good, it can be revisited. But the truth is, when people have consensus, because I don't know when this law was passed, whether there was public hearing, whether people were invited, whether traditional rulers, PG, custodians of custom were invited, I wouldn't know. But I know it was passed in 2019. The aspect of the law people think that is not good can be looked into, but where other aspect we believe is right can also be looked into. The idea is to make funeral to be a seamless thing. I would also want the government to bring a law on the traditional marriage. Many young, please, Franklin, don't laugh. No, these things are serious. They should bring a law on traditional marriage, because you go to some families, you will see list 1.7 million, 1.8 million. Franklin, you know what? The young man will take Ben Johnson, and before you know it, the young woman will be pregnant for 7 months, and before you know it, they'll be cohabiting, no marriage, and before you know it, 4 kids, and the man will not even pay the bride price. We should have a law that regulates traditional marriage practices, where some families believe that it is through this way we will recover everything, and it's very
you know these things. These things are in culture, and if you have custodians of the culture who know what to do, these are the things they will go back to the community, sit down and talk about it, and they see how to make some adjustment. I'll give you an instance. If you go to some communities, you see that na list and for marriage that you mentioned, to Ndiobia, yeah, people who are coming for marriage from outside the town is quite different from the one for somebody who's coming from inside the town. So what I'm saying in essence is this: if those people who are the culture custodians can sit and look into these things, then maybe, if not, whether it's the issue of law is needed, is subject to different understanding. So we have to leave this matter and go to political development, because yesterday APC had senatorial primaries across Nigeria, And that very primaries produced high-profile winners and losers. And we have also seen some people who were disqualified. In fact, before the primaries were held, a list of disqualified persons came out, and the name of Bemure Bruce was there. And he complained. In fact, he was in the media kicking. And next, another list came out. In that second list, his name was added there. But there were still some casualties. But yesterday, we saw the primaries. Of course, it was option A4. That is, queue behind the person you are wishing to support. And that's what happened. Then, the likes of Senate President Goje Abiodun, he won his ticket. Baraj Jibrin, Deputy Senate President, he also won his ticket. Bamidele Bayemi, House Leader, also won. Ojis Okalo won. Adam Soshomole won. Alindume won. Some other people also won. Then in Imo State, Governor of Imo State, Senator Uzodimma, he won. Okorocha. Okorocha said he was not stepping down, so they went to the primaries, and Uzodimma won with 230,000 votes, while Okorocha scored 1,094 votes. If you go to Kogi Central, Yahya Bello secured the landslide victory. He polled up to 72,000 votes to defeat his closing challenger. Then you go to Delta State, you saw Ifeanyi Okowa, former governor of Delta State, Senator Okowa. He secured the ticket for Delta North Senatorial District. He defeated Nwoko and one other person. Then also Mwagige also lost that, and plenty of other things we saw. So Tony, let's look at that primaries yesterday. And were you surprised about the outcome?
I wasn't surprised. In fact, I predicted some of the things the way they happened. All my predictions as far as the primaries we are concerned happened the way I predicted it. I know Hope Uzodimma will win, Senator Rochas Okorocha. And we saw how it happened. In fact, he was there. The wife and the children queued behind him. It was option A4. They went to the field. In his own ward, he was standing. The wife stood behind him. The children queued behind the wife. The cousins, the relations, they all queued before the party supporters. You expect he's the leader of the party in that very state. And in his own ward, he is also the leader. They all queued behind him. Rochas was disgraced. If I were Rochas, I wouldn't have participated in the primaries. But the idea is to show concern. In Delta State, we are told that Nwoko had 3. Does it mean that all the wives he has could not keep behind him? The last I checked, we are told he has about 7 wives. I don't know if that is correct, but I expected the wives, the children, as we saw in Imo State, where Hope Uzodimma's wife, because Hope has 1 wife. He has first wife and they divorced, and he stayed many years without a wife. I think the current wife, he married him in 2013. The current wife, he married him around 2013. The wife killed behind him, and the children, even the children of the first wife, also killed behind him. Now, in contrast to Nwoko, we, according to the video we saw posted by APC Delta North, where we saw 3 persons killing behind Ned. I doubt that anyway, because no matter how unpopular somebody like Ned could be, not just 3 persons, not 3, honestly speaking, but we saw those that killed behind the former governor, Ifeanyi Okowa. In fact, the video was so long, we saw many people. I will use hundreds of people. Let me put it that way.
Well, from the records I have, Ned Nwoko scored 2,612 votes.
But that's from the record. But I'm talking about the video. Okay, maybe the video was at a particular ward.
Yes.
Because we know that in Delta North, there are many wards that comprise Delta North. In fact, Delta North has about how many local governments? 9 or thereabouts. Delta North has about 9 local governments, and they have the highest number of local governments across the states, because you have Delta Central and also Delta South. But Delta North has the highest number of local governments, and it's mainly the Igbo-speaking parts of Delta State. They have the highest number of local governments. The point I'm trying to make is probably the video I saw was on a particular ward, but we know if he has like about 9 local governments or thereabout. You can imagine the number of wards we are talking about. But interestingly, I have not heard the statement of Ned Nwoko.
Yeah, I read one where he was saluting his constituent for supporting him, his political career and what have you not. I'll try to pull it up.
Well, but before that, the truth is, he knew very well what he was in for. Immediately, the governor and then the incumbent, the governor, and then Boroweri and Okowa defected to APC. I knew that Ned would have a problem. He would have a problem.
Some people are trying to say that his push for Anyoma state could have counted against him.
Well, for me, I don't think it could have counted against him, because many people from Anyoma, they are in support of what he's actually pushing. They want to have a separate state, and you know what that means. If you have a separate state, there will be more local government, there will be more developmental activities, there will be more money, and local government is equivalent to money in Nigeria. How that is used is a different ballgame. For me, people from Anyoma would have wanted a separate state, and Asaba is already built. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think in about between 140 to 150 wards in Delta North, he was defeated by the governor, the former governor. Because if you look at the local governments in Delta North, Anyoma South, Anyoma North, because you have Anyoma North and South, you have Eka North East, you have Eka South, you have Ndokwa East, you have Ndokwa West, you have Ochibili North, you have Ochibili South, you have Okwane. These are the local governments we have in that area, and if they have their different wards. I'm concerned about where Ned is from, because it has happened. But apart from Ned, just like you mentioned earlier on, there were other senators that were able to come back. You mentioned Ojo Zakalo, you mentioned Adam Sochomolo, you mentioned Ede Dafione, defeated former Deputy Senate President Ovie Omo Agege for Delta Central. You also have the Senate leader, Obeyebi Bamidele, Central.
But guess what? Omo Agege is claiming that he won.
But from the report we have, he was defeated. Ede Dafione from APC report defeated him. We also look at those that could not make it. You have Bemare Bruce. Well, of course, he was not cleared earlier on, but he was later cleared. But I don't know if he could also make it, but he was not an incumbent. But you look at the senator representing River West, Balibo Banigo, he was disqualified. I don't know if he was later cleared. But you also look at the senator representing Edo South, Neda Emaswen, where he lost to Omoroji, Obeida, Ihama. They were those that lost out when they were. But the truth is that they cannot defect. Ned have had his time at the Senate, but for me, I don't like longevity in the Senate. If you serve 4 years or more or less 8 years, leave the scene for another person. That place is not meant for you. Okowa had been there before he became the governor. After serving 8 years as a governor, he's going back to the Senate. Is it just for these two people? I'm concerned. That's not the way I want politics. Onye liopota, because if I nejeba for maybe ilie epota. But we've seen how it panned out across different spheres. But they have also other parties to contend with. Winning primary does not confer automatic seat at the Senate or at the House of Representatives for any candidate of the party. It does not. We still have a work to do.
Okay, so works need to be done, because after crossing the hurdle of primary, of course, you wait for the opponent you're going to face in the proper election. Let's really go to Oyo State, where the abduction of students and teachers is still getting attention. Yesterday, the president reacted, assuring that he is going to ensure that the students and the teachers are rescued. It was that same yesterday that we saw the video of one of the teachers who was beheaded by the terrorists. Before the beheading, we saw his video where he was making an appeal, and later saw the video how he was beheaded. It's out there in the media. That same yesterday, teachers went on protest demanding for an action. And yesterday, Makinde had a meeting of security architecture in Delta State. During the meeting, they're talking about strategy at the end of the meeting, he spoke to the media, talking about what they are doing. People were asking him about the aircraft he procured. They are going to use for security in the Ivory State. He talked about the aircraft, saying that it's in Lagos, undergoing assembly and what have you not. But he said something about those who are in captivity, that they are going to do everything within their means to ensure that they are going to, that they secure their release. He said the government is even open to listen to demands of the terrorists. So let's get to hear from him, and then we continue.
As a government, we will not give in to terror. We will do everything to ensure that our children and their teachers are returned safely. I'm also saying this to the group. Just whatever it is, we once had a country where we were each other's brothers' keeper. How did we descend to this point? These are not foreign people. It's us against ourselves. So whatever it is they demand, we're ready to listen to them, address the ones that we can address as a state government, but children and their teachers must be released.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Tony, that beheading we saw yesterday was quite gory, and then the governor reacting, saying that they're going to do everything humanly possible to ensure that. He said they're open to talking with the terrorists. So what do you make of his approach to ensuring that those who were abducted are rescued?
I don't want to be very skating on the president and the governor of Oyo State. An abduction or kidnapping that took place on 15th of May, because that was when the incident happened. And we know very well those involved in that very incident, where government attacked multiple schools, not even just one school. Community High School, Ahoro, Esine, Uyewata, Baptist Nursery and Primary School, and others. They abducted about 7 teachers. And then from the last record, 46 students and pupils. They abducted even nursery school people. Nursery. Because they attacked Baptist Nursery and Primary School. People of nursery, primary, they were all involved. And a mathematics teacher, Michael Oyedokun, was killed. That is, was beheaded by the abductor with a graphic video we saw, the one we are talking about. Now, the president, it took Mr. President 3 days. It happened on the 15th. Mr. President reacted on the 18th of May. That was 3 days after the incident happened, where he was expressing sadness over the incident, because I saw the statement issued by his special advisor on information and strategy. Mr. President was sympathizing with the governor, Makinde. In that press release, he was sympathizing with the governor, the families of the victim, and the people of Oyo State. Where he commended the president commended the steps taken by the Oyo State government and security agencies, including the Inspector General of Police and Commissioners of Police in Oyo State. The president went on to assure that the federal government is collaborating with Oyo State to rescue the remaining victims, with intensified operations by police and intelligence team, including tactical and intelligence response team. That is notwithstanding, Oyo State Governor Makinde reacted 3 days after the incident. It happened on 15th. They are all reacting on the 18th, because where he confirmed that 7 teachers were actually abducted, and he also confirmed the killing of one of the teachers, Michael Oyedokun, after a viral video surfaced. He confirmed that when we have seen the viral video. But I feel that there is something that did not sit well with me. When that incident happened, we expected reactions immediately, the same day. You don't need to wait for 3 days. And we also expected to see actions taken by the government and the also federal government. Because if you look at the Mr. President's statement commiserating with the state governor, saying both of them are working together to see to the release of this. Because the chief security officer of Oyo State, in paper, is Oyo State governor. But in reality, is Mr. President, because he is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He is in charge of police, he's in charge of the military, he's in charge of DSX. The Oyo State governor cannot control any of this. You remember when I was saying, shouting, advocating, let's have state police. Now, if you were a brother, you were maybe probably the beheaded Oyo State mathematics teacher, Michael Oyedokun. If that man was your uncle, your brother, those who are against state police, would you also be against it because it has not happened to you? So the governor should be in charge. And what I said, we were there, but people said, I also said that they cannot use them gun and the pump action to confront terrorists who use general purpose machine gun. I said all those things.
Okay, so at this point we have to go from a commercial break. After that, we open the full line. But before then, I'll have to put up these very questions, because if you look at what is happening in Kwara State and Oyo State, and one might wonder whether southern states are under threat of banditry. We used to hear about banditry in Niger State, Kaduna, Katsina, and what have you, the likes of Zamfara and co. But now, Kwara was added. We had cases, and Oyo. This could be about the third or fourth time that we're having strike in Oyo State. So, southern states are there under the threat of banditry. Then, if they are, what should their security authorities be doing and be thinking of right now? Then, if you look at states like Kogi, Kaduna, Katsina, Kwara, Oyo, Niger, where banditry has thrived, is there anything common in these very states that makes this very thing to thrive? Is it that they have thick bushes? Is it that they have where these people can hide? That other states might look at and say, okay, if we also have things peculiar to them, we might be thinking of how to be proactive, because these guys can strike at any time. Let's go for this very commercial break. We'll be right back.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM.
Seriously authentic.
Searching for a place to eat good food and still enjoy premium relaxation? Stanley World Agwoka got you covered. Welcome to Stanley SFF Restaurant and Operiche Lounge Agwoka, where taste meets class. From hot, delicious local dishes to mouth-watering African and continental cuisines, pepper soup, grilled meat, rice, drinks, and many more. Everything is fresh and satisfying. Step into Operiche Lounge, a calm, classy environment to chill, hang out, and unwind. Perfect for friends, dates, and after work relaxation. Chop well, drink well, and feel cool morning, afternoon, and night. Stanley SFF Restaurant and Operiche Lounge, a haven for good food, great vibes, top security, and steady comfort. For further inquiry, call 0814-565-6920 or 0813-855-8009.
Attention schools, attention young champions. This Children's Day, it's time to think fast, speak boldly, and shine brightly. Udala Radio 104.7 FM Onitsha presents Children's Day Debate 2026. With the theme, Phones in Young Hands, Freedom or Risk? What's the right age for kids to use phone? Date, Wednesday, May 27th, 2026. Time, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Live on Udala Radio. Open to primary 4 to 6 students across Anambra State. 12 schools, 6 exciting rounds, and only 3 champions. This is your chance to showcase brilliance, confidence, teamwork, and public speaking skills live before a wide audience. The event will be streamed live on Udala Radio and judged by an impartial team of professionals. Registration fee is 20,000 naira per school. Amazing prize gifts await the top 3 schools, plus other consolation gifts, items, and recognition for schools being represented. For more enquiries and registration, please call 0707-329-1750 or 0703-611-1998. Let's raise a generation that debates, decides, and drives change.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, you are listening to the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM, and it's time for you to join this very conversation. My name is Franklin Ebekatuno Lisambeki is on the analysis desk, and we have brought you a couple of developments in the Polity where we brought an X-ray on these very issues. So we need to hear from you at this point. Don't forget that you can use our social media platforms for you to convey your thoughts on these issues brought this very morning. 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. Don't forget that you have a limited time to make your contribution.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Frank.
Yes, good morning.
Antonio Lisambek.
You're welcome.
Good morning. My name is Mario Keshi. I'm calling from Monica.
Go on, Mario.
Well, let me start by the burial law, the issue on ground on that particular note. My speaker, the problem we have on that issue, both from the reporter and whatsoever, is from the governor. The governor should mind the way he makes speeches on any environment he finds himself. Anything that you want to make to be a law. Why are you telling us? Must you say it in the public? When you go back to Waka, you know how to do it, and you now be a law before you now start telling people. But you will see the governor maybe on a personal, whatever he wants to do, he starts saying it first. So nobody can carry that in news before you know. Yes.
Okay.
And which is wrong.
Okay, Mario.
So,
Mario, hold on.
Yes.
Hold on a bit. So,
right.
So if the governor goes to an event and says that he's going to dust the Anambra burial law to implement it, does it amount to the state government making a new burial law?
Or a reporter, or even a reporter.
But Peter, we know who governor is. Whatever he said, when he said that
I don't think you got the question.
Maleke, you didn't get Frank's question. Frank is asking the governor, as the chief executive officer of the state, has right to talk about any law of the state and the need to dust it. He can say it anywhere. Frank is asking, does that amount a reporter saying we have a new burial law? That's the question
that is what I'm telling you. The reporter that made that carried that news is a bad reporter. But to the people that are listening to the governor, because of who he is, whatever he says, he always do it. So anybody can carry that. I'm not talking about the particular reporter that reported this particular issue, because he's supposed to do his work very well as a trained journalist. But what of others that are not journalists? Because we have social media, the bloggers who are not even journalists or maybe trained journalists. They can assume this as any, because governor, whatever he says, he always do it.
Okay. Mario, hold on. I'm taking my time to do so that we don't misunderstand ourselves. Right. If you check the dates when the governor made the statement, it's more than 1 week.
Yes.
And yesterday the reporter wrote that a copy of the law he got on Monday. So what is the correlation?
Well, to me, just like what I told you, this particular reporter is supposed to be a trained journalist. Maybe he knows what he's trying to achieve. Only he knows that. But Mr. Governor should be advised. That's what I'm saying. There are so many things you don't see on public. It may not be this particular issue, but to some other issues, he should mind the way he's talking to media, or maybe wherever he goes, he say anything.
All right.
And I am backing Mr. Speaker on what he says concerning the traditional marriage law. He needs to visit that if that can be done. Because just like what he said, so many people are cohabiting thinking that they are married just because of the so much money that you must pay before you marry a wife.
All right.
Then
Thank you.
Finally, on the side of
thank you. I'm quite sorry, because if I condone this, I'm going to be partial. So let's manage the time. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. You're welcome on board.
Good morning, Right Honorable Chief Tony Orisambe Obuniyambeki.
You're welcome.
The voice of Honorable Against the Mayor Okuchukwu Mejeki Okulolo Temdonobi from Awada this morning.
Go on.
Like I said yesterday, very, very painful. every day we wake up, we hear about killing in one way or the other. I want to say categorically, clearly, the president of this country, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and these governors, and the people that are the helm of government, stop. Just when they stop confusing people or deceiving people, that they will know what to do about the people that we have abducted. After 3 days, nothing tangible has been done. Okay, you know that all these things are happening. You can't put strict measures. Now, some people are called bandits. Some people are called herdsmen. Some people are called Boko Haram. Some people are called... Why not name these people killers, criminals, and make a good law to kill them whenever they are apprehended, and this thing will stop. But you brand this one, this name. You brand this one, this name. You brand this one, this name. Have a different law for these people, different law for these people. I mean, having different law for these people is when you get like people of IPOB, you prosecute them immediately, put them to jail or kill them. But if you catch Boko Haram or them, you put them to the correction house, and that is having different laws. So I want to blame the federal government and the governors and the people that are the helm of this governance, not the house of assembly. They know everything that is happening in this country as far as killing people is concerned, because they don't want to take it serious. This is their business, and this is life of innocent people of Nigeria. Look at kindergarten children being adopted, separated in schools. They are telling us stories. Well, I want to treat to Nigerians when they get their voters card ready. All these things we have been enough of all these. People are wasting their life for just ordinary criminals. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for joining. Good morning.
Yeah. Very good morning to you, Franklin.
Welcome.
And Dr. Abiodun Sabeki.
You're welcome.
Good morning to you. Yeah, let me start. Chidi Chukuma, please, joining you from here.
Okay.
Let me start with that, the burial law. Was it 7 years ago when this issue come up for debate? We debated on it separately with you, Dr. Abiodun Sabeki. And you can remember that I told you that that law is dead on arrival, that it cannot be implemented. If law is what makes law erroneous or bad, if it is infringed on the right of the people, or if that law cannot be implemented. But we can see that there is no way. It is not totally bad, but the issues of expenses, when it concerns an individual doing things according to their own culture, and not a public fund or something of that nature, then you are coming to tell me how to spend my money. I told them that that thing can never work, and that is the outcome of it. The report that, from that man that we are talking about. The only mistake he made is when he said that it is a new law. But if it is interpretation of that old law, because expenses, that word is omnibus. You can tell whether what to make a very expenses, all that thing that he mentioned there. And therefore, it is not wrong, but the only wrong thing he did is when he said that there is a new one.
I think Honorable Chukuma.
When the first one
Honorable Chukuma.
That it is very, very impossible.
Honorable Chukuma. Honorable, I don't know if you can hear me. I want to ask a question.
The issues of road blockage or posters and the other issues like littering with billboard and so on and so forth. Yes, you can't block a public road because we are burying somewhere. Or even that littering the places with the billboard and the posters.
Okay, please summarize. Summarize.
Telling us that it must happen on Saturday is equally wrong. When you want to make it, I had it on it, asking whether there was a public hearing on that.
All right.
You know that in Anambra State, they don't regard ordinary people.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Please, while you're making a submission, try to listen so that we're able to.
Yes, I wanted to ask him.
communicate.
Hello. I wanted to ask him a question.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Tony. My name is Anambra. Calling from Okowa.
Go on, George.
Yeah, talking about the issue of what is happening in our state. Let me say something here. We need to be very careful the way things are going in this country. And we must call our DSS to let them try to be doing their job diligently, because I've been out of Delta State for almost 2 weeks now. So we are hearing so many things that is going on around. At least I've been in a different environment and hearing some statements about people, what people are saying. The truth is that some of all these things that is going on, we need to look inwards and know if our political hand is not involved on this. Because if you see the way this incident took place, you almost like it's something that somebody sit down and map out everything and planned. Yes, yesterday I was listening to the speaker talking about Amoteku. Who know what other people are not trying to sabotage the situation too? Because sometimes like this, all these things are happening. You cannot tell me that people will come into a state at that particular time and took almost for certain people out of a particular. Imagine how you come into Asaba now. There's a primary school inside the bush of Upper side of Amashala. You now tell me that the party will go inside that bush and took over for something, but nobody will raise alarm. So what are we talking in this country? What other thing is telling me a lot is that because the promises is suffering. Look at the man that they beheaded. Put the family into problem. Put the children into problem. That's why I'm getting worried. Because you're saying that in the heart of our politicians is not involved in all this thing that is going on. That is a big lie. To create the problem in the enemy state. That's what we are witnessing. And someone like you will not be surprised to say it. Because imagine someone would just come in and pack people and move nobody, no alarm, take them to the bush. Now showing us videos. Prepare somebody. Now we are talking after 3 days. So for me, let our DSS, our secret security personnel, let them do their job, because they are not doing their job. They are just after chasing people that against the president.
All right.
Let them do their job, because we need intelligent reports in this country. Because all these things, if they are doing their job, what will be happening? Because these people will do meeting in a place and execute this plan, so they will come and carry it out.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. So Tony, we take note. The people that went for this very kidnapping or abduction in Oyo State, from the report available, they arrived on motorcycles and attacked multiple schools. From what we know, pupils and teachers from 3 schools were affected. There was also an attack in somewhere. There's one community, is it Eziobodo or something like that, somewhere close to Nekede in Imo State. The people that went for the same attack also used motorcycles. And it appears that this is now the means of their movement this time around. Hello, good morning.
It's a wonderful morning to Franklin. Wonderful morning to Tony Osambeki.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, sir. I'm a Buddhist and I'm bringing from Onitsha.
Go on, Tiki.
Going straight to the point, let me say this. Anambra State have come of age. And I don't know if we have a functional state assembly that can make some laws which the governor wants to pass public. Okay? We have passed this stage. We have serious issues in Anambra State that needed to be addressed. Not telling people how to bury their dead ones. These things are, it's something else. We have serious issues that should be addressed here. The road that leads from Seaman to Tazan is nothing to write home about. I think I've discussed with Mr. Speaker. And other roads, most of the roads, we are in now the rainy season. Most of these roads are coming to support on every event.
Okay, Vicky, sorry for that. So let's see who we have next here. Good morning.
Thank you. Franklin, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Mr. Speaker, Tony, thank you. Good morning.
You're welcome.
Monday Johnson, I'm calling from Onitsha.
Go on, sir.
I think in terms of any law is for government. Anytime law is made, the law should be friendly with the people because it's for their good government. No law should be strange to the people. The reactions we have seen so far is an indication that people are not quite aware of this burial law. To me, I'm not from Anambra, but we know that in Anambra here, burial is such a big ceremony that through which people make a lot of fortune. And from where I came from, it's not so. We spend in conducting burial. We don't earn anything. So I believe that this law, if it were well, framed, emphasis made, awareness created, people will like it. Because to me personally, I so much like this kind of law. It will help us actually to minimize the expenses people made in burial, and how people also, it should also be extended to how people respond, the people that attended that burial, what they brought or what they bring to you, the gifts and others. Because this has led to some people ending up in killing their aged mother or father in order to make this fortune. So I want to say, in as much I so much appreciate this law, but I think the emphasis and awareness should be more in letting people know more about it, and then trying to actually convince the people the intent of this law. It's for their good government, it's not for any personal whatever.
All right.
So that's what I have to say this morning. Good morning.
Yes, thank you, Mona Johnson. So from our Facebook page, Dr. Missimo Lebra from Awure, she says, sad that Nigeria is bleeding and every new day comes with painful stories of killings, fear, kidnappings and hopelessness. A situation where children and teachers are kidnapped in schools leaves much to be desired. Our children are now afraid of going to school, and it is invariably affecting the education, and parents are afraid of sending their children to schools. Security is the basic responsibility of the government, and it must rise up so urgently and proactively to this. Enough of rhetorics, and they beheaded a teacher. Nigeria lost educationist. May God comfort families of those affected by this tragedy. That's from Dr. Mrs. Molebera from Owerri State. Some other posts, Okam says, considering what is going on in APC, there is going to be a problem coming 2027 election. Okay, so let's see some other reactions we have on this very page. Ekegona says, Anambra State government should take off their hands in anything concerning burial, because tradition is a thing of the old and has its effect on people if not properly taken care of. Zakwa Celestine says, he's talking about the Oyo school people's abduction, and he says, come to think of it, is it a crime to be a Nigerian or probably to live in Nigeria? I think it's high time we began to consider arresting those who are sympathizers of terrorism in Nigeria, considering the fact that terrorism has degenerated into an enterprise. Some people in this country must be brought to accountability before we can start getting it right in the fight against terrorism. Okay, that's from the first Celestine. Then Gregory Thaddeus says, congratulations to all those who emerged from their party primaries, especially Mr. P. Toby, who we understand is emerging as a consensus presidential candidate of NDC. It's a good step in the right direction, and he says a better Nigeria is possible. Then Capiro International says, he's asking whether APC Central primary election was conducted yesterday, and he's asking about who won for Enugu East. Well, all of the results have not been announced, but primaries were held yesterday across Nigeria. Then Mazinwo Rechikwa says, apart from the fact that the new law will affect many of us, the printers, but I still love what Mr. Governor is doing because it will aid in curtailing the excessive spending of funds during burials. And he says that Mr. Governor should look into marital law, as Mr. Tony suggested, and again look into the aspect of selling land just to perform burial ceremony. He posted from Odabwanicha. Let's also emphasize that there's no new burial law. It's the existing one that was passed in 2019 that is being referenced at this point. In as much as it was reported like a new law, but there's no new law in Anambra State. Now, I'm trying to get to some other comment that we are posted here. Jennifer Sunday says government should do something about this bandit before it becomes too late. Make Gunner says so many big names losing out on APC primaries, more avenue towards strengthening other parties. Then Master Best says as a good citizen of a country, kindly report any suspicious movements within your environment to security agencies. Trying to get all that, but at this point we might take a bow from that very page and then get to conclude this very conversation. So Tony, let's get to wrap up this very conversation. I put up a question before before we went on that very commercial and began to take calls about since we are seeing banditry in Oyo State now, Kwara, in as much as Kwara is in North Central, but if you talk about the contiguity, you know where it is close to. Do you think that southern states are under federal banditry?
Well, for me, I don't think it's the way we are looking at it. Because if you look at Kwara State, you can understand that Kwara State and Oyo State, they have so many things in common. But the point to remember, is if you recall the story of Afonja, you remember Afonja in the during the late 17th century or early 17th century, how he rebelled the Alafin of Oyo, Alafin Eole, for those who understand the story, where Alafin had instructed him to attack a town called Iwere, and he refused. As a result of an internal conflict within the Oyo Empire. Oyo Empire was one of the most strongest pre-colonial Yoruba empires we had. But Afanja invited the Fulanis, the Muslim clerics, and so many of them. I think Alami was the prominent figure. And Alami, came in and they had influence. And before you know it, according to the story, Afonja was killed. And that was how they took over Kwara State and aligned it with the Sokoto Caliphate. But that's aside. And we are told that Alafin Elo placed a cost on Yoruba establishment over how they tried to weaken his empire. That was the invention, how the Fulanis came into that very area. But you understand that over time, you've seen how they have been doing things together. But I'm not surprised that these things are happening, because you asked the very important question, do I think the southern states are under threat? I don't think so. But we know very well that the Marudas, they have before now established base in these states. They have established base. It is left for the state to flush them out. It is left for the state to flush them out. And also, they have established base in places like Plateau and Benue State. Where they have bases, they go on to attack. If you allow them, these Marudas, I'm calling them Marudas, the killers, the kidnappers, if they establish base in your own state, as a result of anything, you have them to contend. I don't think the entire southern state is under threat, is under attack, but we know that does not mean that we cannot be vigilant. You cannot also be very well careful and conscious of any form of infiltration. Having said that, I'm also concerned about those who mentioned something about the burial. Let me say this thing. Let's not, because we are doing program, a governor of a state, anywhere, not even Anambra State, any state has right to go to any public function to discuss issues about the state or what the state has done. We've seen governors doing it, not because if a person does it in Anambra State because you don't like him, it becomes, why would you go there and say things like this? No, please, let's be very careful. Not because of who we like or who we don't like.
Well, from what we have understood about the governance and the government, the way they operate is that, people in government, they seize platforms like events to say what they intend or what they have in mind, or to communicate policies of the government, whether at federal level or at state level. That's what we have seen to be the culture.
Every governor does it. So not when one does it in Anambra State, you say he should mind the way he talks because you don't like him. Let's be very civil.
Okay, so on this very note, we end today's conversation, and we appreciate all your input on today's program. Tomorrow is going to be another edition of this very program. So we're going to take our bow this very morning and then give way for music at 11 before we get to 12 for news and then 12:30 for cherry box. All the gist about Frank and Sandra, because Sandra yesterday, posted a whole lot about what she endured in the marriage. So they are going to tell you all those things.
It is never an excuse to do whatever you do. It's never a justification. Never a justification.
So maybe turning my picture on
never a justification because they want to hold something to something.
All right. So thank you all for listening. My name is Frank Nebuka. Good morning.